Welcome back to episode 7, the Q&A. And in this episode, I will be answering some questions I received via my community on social media. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, the best place to reach me is on Instagram at Alexander Waters. You can also join our Telegram community here, alexanderwaters.com/have a good trip. And just hit the button that says Telegram channel. If you don't have the app, it will probably prompt you to download it. So our first question is from Sally. Sally asks, does anxiety affect your trip? Anxiety is the feeling of not being safe. It's an overwhelming sense of energy in your body that wants to move and be felt, and it's usually been built up over time. Experiencing anxiety going into a journey can mean that you're going to be bringing that energy into the trip and influencing it. And it may also not mean that. I've had many clients experience a profound sense of relief from their anxiety during a journey. And it's often that embodied feeling of relief that gives them the hope and remembrance to take forward into their life. They now know the feeling of it's possible to be free of the anxiety and it doesn't own them. If anxiety does impact your trip in some way, know that it's okay. You can handle whatever comes your way. Follow the tips I've outlined and have a trip sitter or facilitator with you to support you. Another question we received is, what do I do if I feel overwhelmed and start to freak out during the trip? And another similar question that I received is, how do I deal with getting stuck in loops and in my mind? So I'm going to answer these two questions together. And these are very, very common questions that I receive all the time. By now, you may have gathered that my ethos really revolves around the only way out is through. And in having unconditional trust in our body and our experience allows us to let go of any judgments we may have about our experience. And judgments is another word for labels. Have you ever felt overwhelmed in your life? I imagine if I ask most people that, they will answer by saying yes, almost every day, or at least several times per week, or at least once a month, or yes, I can definitely remember sometime. So why are you experiencing overwhelm? This is a question to ask yourself. Well, I believe it's your body's way of communicating something to you. The medicine wants to bring this up for you to experience. And usually on the other side of feeling something is a breakthrough or insight. It's important to remember, actually, overwhelm is not an emotion. It's a state of feeling. So what's the emotion underneath the overwhelm? And there will usually be a set of beliefs attached to that as well that might want to come up. The other part to this is that we must remember that our adult self is carrying around all parts of our child self, especially the unresolved experiences that we had. When a child feels overwhelmed or needs to scream, he or she screams, freaks out, has a meltdown anytime, any place. I have a 4-year-old son, Atlas, and I can factually tell you that this is what happens when, when a kid wants to melt down. Now, what happens for a lot of people is that their parents start to tell them not to do it or make it wrong, or it's just simply too much for the parent in that moment. And the child receives the energetic signal of like, this behavior is not okay. Now the child makes a story up in their head about themselves. They have no way of expressing their emotions in that way, or maybe they start to suppress this part of themselves that needs to melt down and to scream. Maybe there is now shame attached to melting down and feeling overwhelmed. And this is all unconscious, by the way, if a child is young enough. And then so every time this child feels overwhelmed, that energy gets stuck inside instead of being let out. And now, as an adult, you have this pattern of not knowing how to let yourself feel all the emotions of feeling overwhelmed and that state of being. And so you make it wrong and you judge it, just like what happened when you were a child, and it gets stuck. My questions to you are, what happens when you just let go and let yourself go fully into it? What sounds come out? What movements do you make? What emotions flow? if you feel stuck, I find it can be a good start to try to name and then vocalize how you're feeling. Even if you're alone, you can just do it by yourself. And this can sound like, I'm feeling stuck and I don't know what to do. I want to scream, but I feel stuck. I want to scream, but I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling really sad and alone. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm feeling scared. Naming your experience will help you to reconnect with the emotions underneath and let them flow. And this is especially helpful for individuals who know they struggle to connect with their emotions. And often it's just simply about giving the energy permission to move. And a lot of the time we have energy stuck around our chest, our solar plexus, just below our chest, and our throat. So verbalizing it starts that movement of energy. Of course, remember, you can always just reach out for support if you're feeling overwhelmed or freaking out. The medicine in the past has created circumstances for me where I felt I had no other option to ask for help from my friends while I was journeying. And I remember this one instance, the moment I uttered the words, "I need help," I started crying. Before that moment, I never asked for help. Like, I have people working for me and I have people doing things for me, but it's not that vulnerable ask for help. And I would always try to hold everything myself in my life. And I know that a lot of the people I work with have felt the same way. They struggle to ask for what they need and they struggle to ask for help or appear vulnerable as if they are weak because they can't do it alone. Plot twist. You can't do it all alone. Or even if you could, who the fuck wants to have that experience? What are you proving to yourself? To me, it sounds very lonely. We are meant to cooperate. We're here to cooperate. The way that we evolve is through our cells and organisms cooperating with one another. And so often one of the big breakthroughs that people experience in the ceremonies I hold and at retreats is often just learning to ask for help and asking for what they need. And this is especially humongous for men, but for women as well. And so the next part of this question is, how do I deal with being stuck in loops? And I'm assuming that by loop, this question means recurring thoughts that happen. And my response to this is, why do you believe that you need to deal with a loop? To believe that you need to deal with a loop is to believe that this experience of a loop is not meant to be exactly as it is. Once again, right, you're in resistance to what is and attempting to shift away from an experience of discomfort. What happens if you let go of your need to exit the loop or deal with it? Can you accept and love the loop, knowing that this too shall pass? That's one train of thought. If you actually do feel the need to redirect your attention, which, I get it. Open your eyes, breathe, bring yourself back down from the head into your body, feel your heart beating, and slow your heartbeat down. Feel the rise and the fall of your chest and abdomen as you breathe. And follow the strategies I've already shared with you in previous episodes. So when I asked my audience for questions, I was given a bunch of questions about, I'm afraid I'm going to fall into an existential hole of despair and never be able to get out. What happens if I go crazy? What happens if I never come back? And this is a topic I love to talk about because many times in my journeys, I've experienced this moment of truth of like, holy shit, I'm not coming back. I'm crazy. And in that moment, I can either choose to resist that or accept it. And in the resistance of it is this like fight almost to retain a sense of normality. And that then leads me to ask myself, what is normality? What actually is reality? I often go into, well, what happens if I never come back? Will that matter? Will I know any different? Will I care? Will that be a bad thing? And so, we can start asking ourselves these really, never-ending set of questions that, at least from my perspective, help me to understand that on some level, I'm still trying to hold on to this experience of, the physical realm and what I perceive to be reality. And I think it's important to remind us all that we are inhabiting a flaming ball of fire hurtling 1,000,000 miles per hour through something that we call space, which in the literal sense of the word space, it's space. It's space that we do not really truly understand. And we're in a galaxy that's inside a universe that scientists estimate there are billions, if not trillions, of other galaxies and universes just like ours, with a planet that is habitable just like ours. What is this entire experience called life? Where does it all come from? Why are we here? And what is the point of this experience? What is the meaning of life? And so you kind of start entering this space of understanding that actually there are more questions than there are answers, and that the objective is not to have all the answers figured out, but it's rather to be in the experience of having your questions answered and your answers questioned. Now, to come back to, the real sense of what if I never come back? Well, I've always come back from every trip I've ever taken. And I'm certain that there must be examples out there of people who have not come back, or they've chosen on some level to stay in this altered state of consciousness, or perhaps they had a predisposed condition already that then had exacerbated their condition when they worked with psychedelics, like, multiple personality disorder, delusional schizophrenia, a lot of these kind of psychological disorders that, we don't truly understand yet. And so I think that the chances of that happening are very, very rare for anyone. And I haven't seen statistics about it, but just really going back to the fact that 0.3% of people who work with psilocybin mushrooms, and this isn't even in a intentional space, this is in total, 0.3% seek emergency medical treatment. And so I would hazard a guess to say that most of those probably didn't have the information that I've shared and have a good trip. They probably weren't in a safe space. They probably weren't around people who knew how to support them when things were getting challenging. All of those things. They weren't as equipped as you are now. So there's a very, very low chance of any of this. I really truly believe that in the further away we are from our center of nature, the further we are, if we're over here and our nature is here, a psilocybin trip can give us an experience of being connected with our nature and in true alignment in an instant, in a matter of hours. And it's the unwinding of all of the patterns of behavior, identities, beliefs about who I am, what the world is, what love is, all of these things that can cause a sense of despair or fear. And my invitation to you is always to come back to a greater context of everything is here for me. Everything is here to help me bring me back into alignment with nature. And the medicine is here to help me come back to love, come back to source, come back to connection. And so whatever I must let go of in service of coming back into the vibrational frequency of our nature, then that is what must be let go of in order for me to feel at harmony and in a sense of deep peace. So when it comes to an existential, case of despair, what wants to be let go of? Is it the belief that experience is wrong? is it that your life is actually so far out of alignment that your body's natural response, now that you're aware of it, is to feel fear about it and despair because you've just had a realization that you're not living the life that is truly aligned for your soul. So there are so many, ways to dice this up and look at it, but that's where I kind of get to with that question. And thank you for those of you who asked that question of me. It's a topic I really enjoy talking about. Now, I'd love to share with you exactly how I prepare, what I like to do to integrate, and the sorts of things that the journeys that I've found the most impactful for me. So when I started taking psilocybin mushrooms in 2017, most of my journey started out in nature. I was in Hawaii. I was hiking with friends up mountains, and I was sort of in this altered state of reality where everything was kind of getting a bit more lucid with the amount of times I was taking mushrooms. And I'd actually taken time off work for 3 months, so I wasn't worried about a sense of responsibility. My son wasn't born. I didn't have a partner. I was really accountable to no one. And having that time and space for myself, honestly, was super, super profound. It allowed me to let go of a lot of illusions that I'd created in my life and create so much space to help me understand myself and the world. Now, I remember this really big trip that I had with a friend. We went on a hike and we found this spot. And this was the trip before the one that I shared in the very first episode where I was on a mountain. I had this profound experience of unconditional love. And this whole journey, my friend is like having this amazing, profound experience. And the whole journey, I was just resisting everything. It's like I couldn't even find the right spot to sit down, So I was just standing, wandering around. It was like I was observing his journey the whole time. He wanted to climb trees and play. I didn't want to do that. He wanted to go for a walk. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to find a spot. But he had the spot. He had the spot that I wanted and needed, but I didn't even ask for it. And so there was this huge amount of resistance built up in my body. And that is actually what prepared me really deeply for the next journey I had, which happened to be one of the most profound experiences of my life. And then since that point, I have done a number of journeys. I started journeying by myself at home alone. And it was in this experience of being totally alone and isolated from any external stimulus or sources that I was truly left to face off with the only thing that had been getting in my way of experiencing the life I wanted my entire life. And that was me. And I had a series of very profound and awakening journeys. And I also learned how to hold myself through navigating the depths of despair, of existential crises, of letting go of my ego, of feeling like I was dying, of experiencing these profound upgrades every single time I would journey. For a long time, I only journeyed intentionally and solo in my bedroom alone. And there came a point in time where I realized that, it's like the law of diminishing returns. I was getting less out of doing the same type of journey. And so I had an external experience with some friends where we were journeying together and we were interacting. And the thought of that up front actually made me quite uncomfortable to start with. And as we navigated the experience together and I created a really safe space for us to share what was going on, I realized that there was all this discomfort I had in being seen in my process by others. And that it clicked for me that was the next stage of my own personal growth, was how I free myself now is to be able to be free in my own expression, whatever that looks like, with anyone around. Because there's all these illusions of safety that we create in our psyche, in our mind, of like, if I show up this way with this person, they won't love me, won't approve of me. And so that was really powerful. And then I started doing more of that. And over the years, my, journeys have since varied, and I've worked with many, many other psychedelics: ayahuasca, LSD, mescaline, which is from the cactus, wachuma, 5-MeO DMT, which is the toad bufo medicine, Kambo, which is not a psychedelic, but it's a cleansing medicine from the Amazon, Harpe, there's probably DMT, like there's probably some I'm forgetting, but you name it, I've tried it, and I've really gone there with it. So yeah, it's really been such a profound part of my journey, and I feel eternally grateful that the medicine discovered me and I discovered it, because it's helped me to find and embody this sense of peace in my experience that I yearned for so many years. And I think the biggest gift the medicine's given me is the ability to see outside of myself and understand that the world doesn't revolve around me. And it's humbled me and shown me how I was, in many ways, not showing up with love for others. And, in my life, I've caused myself and others a lot of pain in the past through my actions, through being unfaithful in relationships, through uncontrolled anger, lots of different things that I've experienced in, myself. And the medicine really just gave me access to see and showed me how to change. It showed me and gave me the understanding that everything is an expression of our current state of consciousness, and the only medicine to heal ourselves is unconditional love. I'm of the belief that there is only one illness in the world, and that is being in a state of misalignment and disharmony with our true nature. Anything, whether it be physical ailment, whether it be mental disorder, whether it be an expression of behavior that's not working, it's all an expression of symptoms of being in a state of disharmony with nature. Because nature, our true nature, is to be open to the source of love, of unconditional love, and to be in a space of abundance, to not needing to be in survival mechanisms. And I truly believe that this work is some of the most important work that we can do, because the structures on which our world is built on today is based on survival patterns that have been handed down for thousands of years now. And the way that we can break free of this is by changing ourselves. And when enough of us change ourselves, we change the world, and we change the structures that we operate within. And these structures of not enoughness, these structures of actual imbalance, where in the world right now there are people who are severely disadvantaged and do not have access to the resources they need, where others of us, me included, have a substantial overabundance of access to resources. And so these are all important conversations for us to have. And my intention is to continue sharing more of this type of stuff on a podcast, which I'll most likely be launching very, very soon. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And once again, if you can give us a rating or send this to someone who you know will get value from it, please share away. You have my utmost appreciation and gratitude. Big love. Thank you. See you soon.